So today's video is going to be about the Rvia sticker that most of you probably have heard about. Some may not know what it is.
Hi, I'm Rick.
And I'm Sharon.
And we are Cargo On.
Cargo Conversion Building Camp. If you want to see some really cool cargo camper conversions, hear from the builders, see some tours, and see some places we've camped and some crazy adventures, then you are definitely on the right channel. So, do you want to explain what this sticker is?
Rvia is a Recreational Vehicle Industry Association. They are not a government agency, but from the consumer standpoint, they almost seem to act like it. They are somehow self-described and self-proclaimed as the industry standard for accreditation. They somehow seem to have positioned themselves as the industry standard for acceptance of a properly constructed recreational vehicle. Now, they claim that there are more than 500 safety inspections or safety specifications for the construction of these vehicles, for the electric, the plumbing, the heat, etc. Now, it's my understanding, though, that they do come around, I guess, and do a periodic inspection.
When they're building it, right?
Well, from time to time, but not every coach is looked at, not every camper is looked at before it gets a sticker on. And they're merely, the manufacturer is merely paying a per sticker fee to buy these stickers and stick them on their recreational vehicles. That indicates that for the most part they're being properly constructed. And yet, you know, I've watched the videos on YouTube and heard the nightmare stories over the years about some of the dubious workmanship and actually some of the unsafe workmanship and designs that are taking place, where we've got water lines strapped over top of electrical areas with fittings, and they're not really properly secured and this sort of thing. They do a random, I think it is, an occasional inspection at the factories where they send a representative in to make sure that they are in compliance with, I guess, their
standards.
Standard that they've actually put into writing, and that standard has been adopted and accepted by the Rvia.
So here's the thing. It's basically a legal way of regulating who can come in the campground and who can't. So a lot of RV parks and resorts, they will say that you can't come in if you do not have that Rvia sticker. And what they know that does is it eliminates all of the custom campers, because we do not have that sticker. We can't get that sticker because our camper wasn't made in a factory. Now, some people go and buy these.
Well, we were told at one point, or led to believe at one point, that you could build your own and still get Rvia sticker for it if you followed certain procedures in order to obtain it. And I've since heard that that's not true.
Yeah, so
that the first requirement to even be able to get one of these is you must be in business and listed as a manufacturer before they'll even consider doing business with you.
Now, I know some people do sell them, you know, like black market, okay? We don't care about the Rvia sticker. Yes, we're rebels, we're outcasts, okay? So the Rvia stickers to us is not such a big deal because of where we camp. Okay, now if you're going to go to campgrounds, private campgrounds, and RV resorts, they may want that sticker. And if you have a cargo conversion or any kind of conversion, unless you somehow got your hands on a sticker, either made one or bought one, you're not going to be able to get into that campground without it. The sticker is probably a way of confirming that the camper is compliant with all the safety regs. And I'm sure they don't want someone pulling in any kind of reg, whether it's a $10,000 reg or a $100,000 reg, where the electric is not to code and it's going to catch on fire and set the row of campers on fire next to it. So if you want to go to those types of campgrounds and you don't have the Rvia sticker on your custom camper, then it could be an issue. So
it's not an issue. You're screwed. That's all.
Well, I've seen some people, they buy them. There's people online, I mean, you can get anything, really.
Well,
online.
you know what? as time goes on, these RV parks are going to get smarter, and they're going to know when they start seeing cargo trailers coming through their doors left and right with RVIA stickers on them that they're fraudulent.
I believe that because it's private property, these parks could deny a cargo camper just because it's a cargo trailer. You know, it's their rules. There's parks just for Airstreams.
Yeah, under the federal law says that you can't discriminate, but it's very specific on what you can't discriminate on.
Yes.
But if you want to discriminate against a cargo camper versus a manufactured pull-behind trailer, that's legal. If you want to discriminate against male customers who have beards or are bald, you can do that. That's perfectly legitimate. You just can't do it on the basis of the ones that have been specifically named in the civil rights.
We're fine with where we camp anyway, because to be honest with you, I'm not always comfortable camping next to, and we have camped next to some expensive rigs. Yeah, we are kind of the outcasts. We don't fit in. We got this little tiny thing. We're very down to earth, and I'm not saying that they're not down to earth, but I've been into some camps where the really expensive rig pulls in, and you just see the guy out there polishing the rig the whole time. To me, that's not camping, okay? But, to each his own. So we would rather be, probably in the tent section with the smaller rigs anyway. I'm not offended by that.
I think, the question becomes, is an RVIA sticker worth anything legitimate as a basis to discriminate or accept or reject people going into a campground?
Here is this industry, okay, that makes RVs, and they have this RVIA. What does it stand for?
Recreational Vehicle Industry Association.
Okay, and they are responsible for determining the specs and the guidelines and everything, and they go out and do inspections on some of these factories that are building them to make sure they're compliant with these specs. So if I was a campground owner, I would be more comfortable knowing that, yes, somebody was overseeing this, okay? So I completely understand that. To be honest with you, I don't think, and please, put this in the comment below. I'd really like to know from people who have cargo campers. I don't think most people who have a cargo camper are going to be offended by this at all because of the way we camp and where we camp. I could be wrong, but I think most people with that cargo camper are fine camping next to tents, smaller campers. They don't have to be in these big fancy places, so they're fine with that.
Well, it doesn't now, but let's look at the way the trends are changing in terms of camping and campsite availability. What happens if 6 months or a year from now the commercial campgrounds are all so booked up and packed that now these campers with the RVIA stickers are moving into the state parks, and we're still in a situation where we're now kind of have no choice but to be camping on the same premises as they are, and there's still going to be some unrest.
I don't know what I don't know that there's unrest. I think you're making an assumption.
Some tension, maybe, let's call it that.
We don't know there's tension. You're making an assumption. Okay,
well,
I think the basis
we've
for
seen
this.
It doesn't exist all the time. I mean, I've been next to people. It's an individual scenario. I've been next to people with their $500,000 Class A rig, and they were just the nicest folks you'd ever want to meet. And I've also been snubbed by the guy that has this used $50,000 Class C camper because we're in a cargo trailer or tent camping somewhere.
Maybe some people will be snooty, but then I think other people will camp with people like us in our little small cargos and realize that we're not really the raft. We just don't have as much money as they do, or we're smarter with our money and don't want to waste $50,000 on a camper when we can spend 10 on one and do the same thing that they're doing. I could be wrong. If there's animosity between people with the expensive RVs and the people who make these inexpensive custom campers, I think some of it has to do with maybe they're jealous. Maybe they realize, wow, I spent all this money and I didn't have to. And I could be wrong, okay? Maybe we're just looked at like the rebels, but you know, I don't care. We're rebels. That's what we can afford. You know, we just can't go to the fancy campgrounds. Now, I'm not saying that we didn't want to, but we tend not to go to them because they're more expensive anyway. You know, when we were in Key West, there were campgrounds right in Key West that I wanted to go to, but we couldn't get in because of of the equipment that we had. They would not let us in. It's not so much that the campground had so much to offer, but the proximity of where it was right in there. So in that way, I think you may be pushed out a little. State parks are usually within 10, 20 miles of, there's probably closer campgrounds, private campgrounds, that you just can't get into though. But we'll drive a little extra and go to the state. That's fine.
Well, you know, even this thing with the 10-year rule, people were talking about that. We've yet to encounter a campground that enforced that. And they did a video on YouTube. At any rate, they did a survey, and only about 3 or 4% of the campgrounds that they looked at were actually enforcing this 10-year rule. You know, there's so much talk about it, and yet in reality, there's very little usage of it. And they've also made it clear that out of those 3 to 4%, some of them said it wasn't a hard, fast rule, that they would make exceptions.
So I think that's a good point to keep in mind. If you call a campground, and if they say you can't come in because of the 10-year rule, because you don't have the Rvia sticker, try to plead your case, okay? Maybe, you know, send them pictures. I mean, if you're on social media, show them, you know, this is my camper. Do you think it would be okay? And like I said, it's not a hard, fast rule. It's not illegal to camp in what we're camping in. It's just some of these people with private property, these campgrounds, may say, we prefer not to have them. But you can talk to them and probably sway their opinion. And then, you know, if you really want to be sure, stay with the state parks, the national parks, the BLM lands, and Corps of Engineers, and then the harvest hosts and stuff. I mean, you know, you just have to ask. Let us know in the comments what your experience is with, either with the Rvia sticker or the 10-year rule. That's a wrap, everyone. You know what to do if you like this video.
You all come back now, you hear?